Next up, we have a speaker. We'll start with a film, but let me just tell you a little bit about Ayesha Barenblat. Fashion is her passion, and she's unveiling fashion's climate crisis and how we fix it. So we're going to hear from her about how she looks at clothes and explores consumer behavior and movements like no new clothes that can shift the industry and hopefully our hearts and minds. So without further ado, the founder of Remake, Ayesha Barenblat.
From the beginning of the supply chain to the end, we're all being exploited by the same system. When you look at the women who farm, who pick cotton, when you look at garment workers, the Kai women are being exploited, their bodies are being exploited. The retailers are being exploited. A lot of them are women, and some of them have no idea the impacts of it.
Ghana's coast was the main port of exit for human beings who were trafficked as slaves to North America to work, many of them on cotton fields to make clothes. And now it's the main port of entry for secondhand clothing being sent back here as waste. So that is a continuation of colonialism and slavery in another form.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am so happy to be here in Orlando, Florida, my first time. Thank you, Volo Foundation. My name is Ayesha Barenblat, and I have spent the last 20 years, I know I don't look that old, but yes, 20 years, working with some of the biggest fashion houses, Chanel, LVMH, some of the high street brands, Levi's, Gap, the United Nations, many civil society organizations, all with a singular purpose around making fashion a force for good. A decade ago, I founded Remake. We are an all-women nonprofit with a singular mission around really getting you to understand the human rights and climate justice issues embedded in our clothes. And now you may ask, and I see some of the gentlemen already receding. Notice I said clothes, not fashion. So as long as you're not a nudist, which is fine if you are, it's a lifestyle choice. But as long as you wear clothes, whether you consider yourself fashionable or not, this is a conversation for you. And so first, really, it's to say, hey, what do our clothes have to do with the climate crisis? And the answer is a lot. Today, we are producing upward of 100 billion units of clothes every single year. And the reason I say approximately, knowing that the Volo Foundation loves data, is because a lot of big fashion houses, even though we've asked them for many, many years, don't disclose how much they produce. But in the last decade, we have made more clothes than in the 2 decades before that. And the thing is, there's only one way to make our clothes so cheap and so fast, and that's with reliance to fossil fuel. There's upwards of between 4 and 6% of all global greenhouse gas emissions that now come from how our clothes are made. Like, okay, put that number in context. That's more than all the emissions of the United Kingdom, for example. And so the numbers are really up there. And it all starts with this one singular fact that we're simply just making too many things. For all the young people in the room, how many of you know Shein, Temu, broader hands, Amazon hauls? Boo is right. Louder for the people in the back. Boo, exactly. And the thing is that the only way for clothes to now cost less than a cup of coffee, the fact that it's high-skilled labor and we're paying $5, $6, $15 for a t-shirt or a pair of pants, is to rely on synthetic fibers. Now, do this if your neighbor is willing. Ask if you can have a look at their label. Only if you're good friends, and see what's in there. Is it cotton? Is it linen? Is it polyester? What's in the clothes? Polyester. I'm hearing lots of polyester. What's polyester? Plastic. What's plastic? Fossil fuel. Today, 64% of everything in our clothes is fossil fuel. It's either recycled polyester or polyester. Even though the fashion industry has made commitments every single year, we miss those science-based targets. According to the Textile Exchange, just from 2020 to 2021, we went from 60 million tons to 63 million tons of synthetics. To put that number in context, that's more than 28,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools filled with fossil fuel. We are simply bathing in it. And so then the question becomes, where does all this end up? And why I appreciated so much of the grounding of this conversation this morning was to talk about the justice issues. When we make our clothes so cheap, and when we make so many of them, we tire of them. And they're also not built to last. You know, go into your grandmother's closet and you have the beautiful linens and cottons and regenerative fibers that lasted. The only way for the fashion industry today to be profitable is if you buy it for $10, $15, we want you to throw it away as quickly as possible and buy more. The problem is our cities, our counties, our countries are not equipped for this volume of synthetics, of polyester showing up. It's gumming up our infrastructure. And so what happens? Even though most of the waste is created right here in the West, we end up sending it and making it Chile's problem and Ghana's problem. You saw in the clip right before I came on, that's one of our documentaries. It's a love letter to our high schoolers in the room. It's called Brandy Helville and the Cult of Fast Fashion. It's streaming on Max. And it really shows you the justice issues of how this industry preys on women, mostly black and brown women, whether it's garment workers, whether it's waste stream workers. You can see mounds and mounds of clothes now through satellite imagery because of how much we're throwing away. Now, what happens when you have polyester in your clothes and you put it in the oceans and you put it into our soil? The microplastics. Yes, we have teachers in the room. Louder. Microplastics. Marine life, already very volatile. They say that we are already consuming as human beings something like 1 credit card worth of plastic. And when we are throwing our clothes into the oceans in Ghana, what's happening is that the already very fragile ecosystem of our marine life is impacted. The microplastics shed even when we wash our clothes on high heat. When it ends up in landfill, which is where most of it ends up, it doesn't biodegrade for up to 200 years. And so you may think you're doing the right thing. You know, when you are done with your clothes, you send it off to your local Goodwill, your thrift store. How many of you do that? All wonderful citizens. How lovely. I have news for you. It's not sitting over there. You know, we do a lot of work with Goodwill, with the local thrift stores. They are dealing with a glut of clothes, all lines going back to overproduction. So we're making it too fast. We're pumping it with synthetic, chemical, water-intensive processes. Our clothes are also flying around, right? We used to make things here. Now it's the zips are coming from Germany, and the cotton's coming from Bangladesh, and it's being cut and stitched in China. And then Shein and Temu have private planes where they are bringing this product here, skirting the de minimis rules to bring it to you ever so cheaply. And so, whether you consider yourself fashionable or not, our clothes are fueling the climate crisis. Okay. And so we've talked about the plastics, we've talked about the fossil fuel reliance, and I see you all, you were so happy with the meditation and the dancing, you're slowly sliding back into your seats. This is why I don't have any friends. This is why my husband's like, can't take you anywhere, Ayesha. But honestly, what I'm going to do next is to talk to you about solutions, because this is something else I really love about Volo Foundation and how we set this intention to say every little action adds up. Every little way that we make a choice, we make a decision, And for us at Remake, very similar to the foundation's mission, it all starts with education. You know, I spent a lot of time within the industry wanting to make a difference. And then I realized, well, there's a missing piece in this equation, and that's all of us, everyday citizens. We wear clothes. We care about the climate crisis. And so a decade ago, Remake started first on college campuses. We were in fashion schools, and then the business schools started calling us, and then the policy schools, and we went from graduate schools to undergraduate. And then in the last decade, something really fun has been happening, where we have more and more inquiries from middle schools and high schools. All of our education is free and open source. So for teachers in the room, please talk to me afterwards. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves in is multimedia and new forms of education, because we understand that we have to meet our youngest customers where they are. And so what started to happen is a really fun grassroots movement. Today we have 2,000 Remake ambassadors in 90 countries. Our ones from Orlando and Miami are right here. Stand up, say hi, do a wave. And so what we've started to swap that happened right here at the start of the conference. Who is right? You know, in New York during Fashion Week, we have a Wear Your Value show where it's all vintage, rented, thrifted, secondhand, and it's sort of pushing back on the excess of fashion for our 300 ambassadors in New York. In DC, when the EPA was being gutted, it was our community organizers right out there protesting. In LA, when the wildfires happened, it was our community organizers mending and repairing and also telling people, please, we don't want your fashion. This is not the time to be dumping and overwhelming us when we are trying to take care of victims of fire. And so local organizing really has been a core tenet of our work. Education in terms of podcasts and movies. There's a new Netflix documentary, Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy, Brandy Helville, if you haven't seen it. And for those of you on Instagram, Remake Our World. Easy ways for you to get that education. But, you know, a lot of habits are really difficult to change. And so one of the things that has been really fun in our decade of trying to really be accessible when it comes to climate, when you talk about climate justice, you talk about human rights, these issues feel so amorphous to people. And so one thing that really took hold over the last decade is some of our fun activations, like our No New Clothes Challenge. We have a simple invitation to people to say, for 90 days, can you stop buying clothes? Other than underwear. That's okay, it's gross. We want you to buy your underwear. But could you just stop for 90 days? Why 90 days? Because it says that's how long it takes to break a bad habit and set good intentions. But what's fun is we have you do it together. So if you just go now to remake.world, take our No New Clothes Challenge, we, like a lifestyle coach, will send you messages, and on the back end, we'll be able to calculate how much water we're saving, how much waste we're diverting, how much money we're saving, which is really fun for our community. We are also not purists. We don't ask you to do it in a perfect way. For some people, that means divesting completely. For others, it means thrift or secondhand. I do a lot of public speaking. I rent. I'm like, you know, for clothes, we should be thinking of them increasingly as a service rather than a disposable good. What was really interesting for me this morning was to see the intergenerational meteorologist have a conversation, because we have a host of weather women up and down the country who've taken the No New Clothes Challenge. Why? Because it is meteorologists and weather women who are on the front lines of covering climate shocks increasingly. That's right. Ginger Z was the first one, 3 years, no new clothes, and it started a movement. I was recently in conversation with a senator's wife. I'm like, how's it going? It seems really fun in DC these days. She's like, Ayesha, I'm going to take the No New Clothes Challenge, and I'm going to make it a bipartisan issue. I'm going to get others to take it. So here's another thing you can do right now, which is take out your phones, give us a follow on Remake Our World, or take the No New Clothes Challenge, because so much of this starts with public education and awareness. But at the end of the day, I'm not naive to know, and that's why I so appreciated the conversation that closed us out before lunch, which was that we need advocacy as well, and that we are needing huge ways to regulate this $2.5 trillion industry that's massively unregulated. And this is, again, where our community organizers and grassroots young people showed up. Do you know where most of our clothes are made in the United States? Which state? No. California. 45,000, mostly Latina women, till 3 years ago were making $5 an hour. How do you withhold climate shocks when you make $5 an hour, stitching piece rate? Thanks to our advocacy work, the Garment Worker Protection Act is now the law, and the women make minimum wage, $15 an hour, not $5 an hour. And the first thing when we took them to DC was to say, I can come home and help my children with homework now. I can be more present. And so a lot of our work is about humanizing the climate crisis. You know, when we talk to young people, we don't even use the word climate. We talk about, it's very hot. Come to downtown LA. There are no coolant systems in these factories. And when it's very hot, people faint because they can't take bathroom breaks or drink water because they're on a deadline. When the floods happened in Pakistan, my home country, a third of the country was underwater. The cotton crop was destroyed. The goods couldn't ship. Our industry operates on debt. What that means is that if the goods don't ship, women don't get paid. And so it's really important for us to also be having that justice lens on it. Is Black and brown women on whose backs this industry has been built. And it is Black and brown women who are on the front lines of the climate crisis. And so outside of your individual decisions, like follow us on Insta if you're young people, take the Remake pledge, I'll be honest with you, this is a hard time for nonprofits out there. And so for family offices, for foundations, support us. We need you. Today, in the last decade, with our 2,000 grassroots machinery, we reach 7 million citizens. And with your help and support, we're going to reach many, many more. Because the truth is that it is up to us as individuals to shift cultural narratives, to take individual actions, but also to be in community. And by God, in community, in a place that's centered in hope and joy in order for us to make a difference. And so I don't want to just be talking at you. I'm going to open it up for questions. My only ask is to please ask me a question. You know, if you have a comment, we can talk afterwards, but it'll be fun to have a bit of Q&A out, because I do like positive reinforcement. So if you like what you heard, you can clap, and then I'll be galvanized to answer your questions. Here's 3 things that you can do right out of this conversation. The first is just being in the know, you know, getting to know what does your closet say about your values. You know, at Remake, we have a simple slogan, where are your values? We're asking you, do you care about women? Do you care about the planet? And then if so, every day when you shop, what does that shopping decision say? So could you do secondhand? Could you thrift? Could you rent? Could you swap? Could you share clothes? Could you buy less? That's the first. The second is for the young people. How do we get them to be engaged in a way that feels actionable and exciting? So if you're an educator, you're a high schooler, come talk to us. We have resources for you. We want you to be a change maker in your local community. How to have a film screening, how to have a swap meet. And then finally, it's to say, maybe meet one person here today who is a remaker and pledge how you'll give us your time, money, attention, because we are here to fundamentally change the face of fashion, and we want to do it with you. Will you join us?
How do you tell if a thrift store is actually doing the right thing and providing you clothes that have been used? I start to get the sense that when I'm going to a thrift store, that they're just giving me something that's possibly new, and it's just...
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. You know, it used to be that that was the solution, right? Thrift, Secondhand, it's the solution. And again, it goes back to the overproduction problem. You know, so many fashion brands have an inventory problem. A lot of what we are buying, especially with the rise of e-com and TikTok, it's brand new and we're throwing it away. So really, the thrift shops are not the super villain here. It's overproduction. But I will say when it comes to thrifting, your local community thrift shops is a far better solution than, say, a ThredUp. You know, again, we're not a purist, but it's to say, it's a volume game, and so the more it can be locally mired in terms of the secondhand generation, the better that is for emissions. But honestly, it ultimately starts at the consumption level. We're just buying too many things for too little money. And so unless we stop that behavior, what we're starting to see is young people have normalized thrifting, and we love to see it. But if we're thrifting at the same volume as when we were buying virgin clothes, we're not getting anywhere. We're still swimming in this stuff. One more question, and Caroline's going to tackle me off the stage. Or hug me.
I have a question. Oh, did somebody else? Okay. So realistically, so I thrift also,
Yes,
and
thank you.
I was curious if, so say my options at the thrift store are polyester clothing. So is it better for me to go and thrift polyester clothing than it is for me to get something that's new but that is cotton-based and it's better for the environment?
Yeah. It's such an important question, and again, I think this is where we cannot be the perfect activist, right? And so it's to say, for you to be a change maker, it's what works for you. And I'm very, very cognizant of the justice lens to this. Not everyone can buy new and sustainable. A lot of sustainable fashion today is very expensive. And so say you have to thrift, or you would like to thrift, you know, there are simple things you can do. You can wash your clothes on cold water and line dry. That ends up doing better from a microplastics standpoint. You can be wearing the same things again and again. Zara 10 years ago was much better quality than Zara today or Shein today. And so I love to say, you know, loved clothes last. Wear what you have. Shop in your girlfriend's closet. In mine, it's my sister's closet. She doesn't know it, but I'm there frequently. So the more, she might watch this, which is not great. The more you share, the better. But honestly, it's what works for you. And so I'm just going to close this out by saying thank you so much for your time. We're here. Remakers are in the crowd. Let's truly think about our everyday consumption decisions and how we can push back on the climate crisis. Yeah.